Great. Let me just put. So if feel free to put your video on if you want to. It's always nice to see people. It's absolutely fine to not have your video on, but just it is nice to see people, and then we just feel we're together. My name is Liz Todd. I'm the director of the Institute of Social Science, and we've been running these Talk Social Science events more or less since I took over the Institute. We got the idea from consulting with everybody and having our big events. And people told us they wanted somewhere to go to just have a chat about social science and to mingle and talk. Now, we can't quite reproduce what we did in the mezzanine of Northern Stage here, sadly. We haven't quite got a way of having mingling and chatting on this online, although I'm sure there's a way to do it, and I want to investigate how we do that. However, we're still having the Talk Social Science, and we generally try to get something that's a little bit controversial or try to get a bit of debate going. We've had things like, what are inequalities? Do they matter? That was one of the topics we had. So if you would like to suggest a topic in the chat or in an email to me or Alex or Stuart, then please do. Or if you'd like to volunteer to do something, and it could be related to what we're doing today, because this is clearly a topic of great interest. And I also happen to know that there's at least 3 or 4 people I can see on this who could easily be giving the talk now and be part of this. So we'd love to hear more from you another time, because I know the kinds of work that you do online, whether it's from professional services perspective or from the academic perspective, and some fab practice around the university. So, and just a thanks as well to Stuart Hand and to Alex Robson, who've helped massively to organise today, we all work together in the Institute of Social Science. So today I'm delighted, if I find my notes here, we're delighted to have Pam Woolner and Christian Lawson Perfect, who are going to lead us in our ideas. Now, it's a debate about this whole thing. We now know that we've gone from virtually, well, very little online, to be honest, apart from some of the people here who've been doing it brilliantly and supporting other people like me to do it in the past. But we haven't done a lot of it, to all of us suddenly having to do all of it all the time. And it's a massive learning curve for everyone, even if you did some of it before. So it does raise the question, and it's a very interesting one, and it's one that the university, I know, will want to be grappling with in the next year. Is what do we go back to when we are able to meet face to face, and what are the affordances of the different kind of both face to face and online. So that's what we've got, these 2 different people to talk about. So Pam Woolner is a colleague who I've worked with for many years, know Pam really well, and really love your work, Pam. It's been researching the physical settings of education, the spaces in which we learn, and works with architects and planners and educationists and in different contexts as well. And Christian Lawson Perfect, who's in the this is the e-learning unit in the School of Mathematics, Statistics and Physics, lead developer of the e-assessment system Numbers, and he's been doing that for over a decade. So I think we've got ahead of our head a really interesting hour. Please could you put in the chat questions that you have, if you know you've got those questions already, and or as you hear the talk, please add questions in. I won't be able to take up all the questions, but we can all see them, and we'll try to take up as many as we can. There are too many here to have just a debate and discussion, but it may be that we come to you to actually ask the question, but most likely I'll ask the question. But please feel free to just get involved, or just to put your viewpoint if there's something you'd like to say, something you're interested in giving that viewpoint. Just to note that this is being recorded. We will make this available to people to listen to later, so bear that in mind when you the speakers bear that in mind, but everybody bear that in mind. And yeah, we look forward to it. As I said, do if you want to put your camera on, only that it just gives a bit of a sense of us all being together and seeing each other. I know it's really helpful for the speakers to feel they can actually see people, but it's absolutely fine if you're cooking, whatever you're doing, you just feel this is your time when you can just turn off a bit and listen, and you just want to have your video off. Of course it's your privilege. That's no problem. Okay, so if I can hand over the reins to Pam, please, to set us off. The speakers will speak for 10 minutes each, around 10 minutes each.
Thank you very much, Liz. Okay. I hope we can all see the beginning slide. Yay, I love it when that's why you need a bit of camera on so people can go, yes, it's fine. So we are being deliberately provocative. Me and Christian actually get on very well, but we have decided to try to take these sort of opposing views to get people sort of thinking and talking. So we were deliberately provocative with the title, learning and teaching in the digital post-COVID era. Be nice to be in the post-COVID era, wouldn't it? What's the benefit of being in the same room? And I have to say, maybe there aren't that many benefits of being in that room, but so it clearly depends on the room you're in. But I'm going to try to explain why I think there are definite benefits for education generally of being physically located. And I draw on work that I've done over the years with schools and a bit in higher education. And as I say, I'm going to make the case for why we should get together in the same room. Oops. Okay, space matters. The space you've got makes a difference to what you can do there educationally. And that's the material space, any sort of digital resources, design, organisation, all that sort of thing. And it matters because it facilitates some things and hinders other things. And I've thrown in some sort of references there fairly randomly, mostly school, but Brooks and Park Kyung Choi are both research carried out in higher education. And I've given you some nice spaces to look at. So yeah, space matters. And there's lots of interest in sort of research in that, this idea of what the space does for education, both in schools, mostly in schools, but I say a bit in higher education, and particularly interest in sort of innovation and doing things differently. So all this research, what do we think we know? So there are some direct impacts of the space on learning, but only a few. That isn't what you should worry about. Beyond the basics of sort of temperature, noise, internal air quality, mostly the space doesn't have a direct impact on learning. It has indirect impacts through allowing you to do particular things or making it hard to do particular things. Therefore, we need to understand the setting, whatever it is, in relation to the use, what we want to do in there, what we're trying to do. And that might make you think, so changing the space can be part of changing what we do, but of course we also know that change is also very hard, and that's why if you are trying to change what you do in the space you do it in, sort of collaborative, sort of participatory approaches can help. And the picture at the bottom was a project we did some years ago. Ross is smiling. Some of you might even see yourself there. So this is people who were engaging with thinking about learning space at the university. So what do we know? And then what has COVID added to these four fundamental bits of knowledge? Okay, I hope you appreciate that I have tried to find a shape that looked a bit like the COVID virus. It's not great, but the attempt was there. Okay, so direct impacts. Yeah, okay, it might not be a direct impact, but being stuck in your bedroom for 10 months makes you feel a bit strange. And that is, I think, an indirect impact on how we teach and learn. Yes, some virtual interactions are better than others. And back to the change is hard. Yeah, but change is possible. We've certainly learned that over the last few months. We have managed to change. And on the sort of collaborative participatory approaches, this does feel a bit of a joke at the moment because we're having to do things because we're pushed to do things. But still, I think we'd all agree that still discussion, transparency, shared decision making where possible is nice. Okay, so that's what we know, what the current situation has added. So why can't we just give up on the physical space? Yeah, why digital technology can't reflect, and I'm just going to give you a few quick quick ideas. I mean, I could almost say, we'll just look at that picture. I mean, this is very nice seeing you all on Zoom, but that image of people taking part in something I ran at the university some years ago, I mean, that just, for me, says it. That's why digital technology can't entirely replace the university as a physical and social centre. But if you doubt that, here's some suggestions. Gert Biester has been arguing for a while in education that we should be talking about education rather than just learning. Education is more than learning. And I think in this context, it's a shared experience of being and doing. And I don't know how familiar you are with Doreen Massey's work in geography, and I haven't read loads of her work, but she talks a lot about the benefits of actual physical space, and particularly sort of chance meetings. And I think that's a key part of the full experience of any education, and certainly of higher education. Yeah, I think there are important parts of science, art, music, sport, engineering, etc., 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 that do not transfer that easily or entirely to the virtual setting. Anyone for an online field trip? And I do think it's worth just remembering that some of the people who are very enthusiastic about a move to the digital do have, a certain amount of self-interest. So, you read things and then you discover that people are sponsored by Microsoft, and you think, well, yeah, they will be encouraging this. And I don't mean to cast aspersions on anyone here, but if you are interested in that idea of, some of the backstory on the current enthusiasts for online learning, Neil Selwyn is really good, and that's a talk he did a few years ago at UCL. That link, it's really worth watching. It's very entertaining as a talk. So I'm just going to wind this up with a sense of, that's why we can't replace the university, and just, what is the university? What could it be? And I'm going to use this quote that Kerry Fisher, who's a prof in Bristol in education, she wrote this 10 years ago, and talking about schools, this idea of reclaiming the right of schools to act as resources for their communities, to imagine and build the futures they want, rather than simply training them for the futures they have been given. And she, as part of that book, it's Learning Futures is the name of the book if you want to find it, she rejects the idea that schools can be replaced digitally. And I think this in essence sums it up. And I think this is what we want from our university. And I would argue that physical space is a vital part of that, what a university can and should be. That's me.
So thank you very much indeed, Pam. Some brilliant ideas in there.